So let's talk about something we all kind of take for granted: solid, stable teeth. What actually happens when that foundation starts to get a little shaky? Today, we're jumping into a really neat dental procedure called periodontal splinting. Let's get into how it all works.
Just think about that for a second. Imagine that feeling of a solid bite. Just isn't there anymore. For a lot of people, this is a daily reality. It's a condition we call tooth mobility.
And believe me, this is way more than just a minor annoyance. When your teeth are loose, it can make it hard to chew, it can change the way your smile looks, and honestly, it can just be really uncomfortable and create a ton of anxiety. It really does affect your quality of life.
Okay, so if that's the problem, then what's the fix? Well, this is where a pretty clever technique called periodontal splinting enters the picture. Let's break down exactly what that is.
So the official definition calls it an appliance that joins two or more teeth together. But what does that really mean? The goal is actually pretty simple but incredibly powerful: to hold those wobbly teeth steady, right where they're supposed to be, so they can function properly.
And this image, well, it makes it all click, right? The best way to think about it is like a group of people linking arms to stay upright in a heavy wind. Or maybe like scaffolding that you put up to support a building. The splint basically links the weaker teeth to their stronger neighbors, turning them all into one solid, stable unit.
But how does this actually work, on a biological level? Let's get into the science of it, because this is where you really start to understand why it's so effective.
So splinting has 5 main goals. First, and this is huge, it gives the damaged tissues a chance to just rest. And when things can rest, they can heal. Then it does something really smart. It redirects and spreads out the forces from chewing. So instead of one weak tooth taking a beating, that pressure is shared across the whole group. And the result? You get your function back, you're more comfortable, and it can even make other dental surgeries way more successful.
This quote right here just nails the core idea. When you chew on one of the splinted teeth, the force doesn't just slam into that single tooth. No, it gets shared across the entire unit, which acts like a shield, protecting the weakest links in that chain. It's a brilliant principle.
Now you might be thinking, this sounds amazing. Why not do it for everyone? Well, it's not quite that simple. Splinting isn't some kind of magic bullet. It's a very specific tool for a very specific job, and there are some clear rules about when you should and shouldn't use it. So when is it the right move? It's generally for teeth that are already moderately or even severely loose, especially when other treatments haven't done the trick. It's also a great option when that mobility is really getting in the way of eating or just making a person uncomfortable. And it's a fantastic tool for stabilizing teeth after an injury or after you get your braces off. And, just as important, you have to know when not to do it. You can't just splint teeth if there's still active inflammation. You got to get that under control first. You also, pretty obviously, need enough strong teeth to act as anchors. And this last one is a biggie. If a patient can't keep up with excellent oral hygiene, a splint can actually cause more problems by trapping plaque.
Okay, so to design a splint that's actually going to work, there are 2 key principles. First, you need to include enough strong teeth to handle the extra load. But second, and this is super clever, the splint often needs to wrap around the arch. Why? Because it acts like a retaining wall against the constant, gentle pressure from your tongue and cheeks, which could otherwise push the whole thing out of place.
And here is a super simple, but absolutely vital rule of thumb to remember. Think of it like this. The strong anchor teeth in the splint need to have at least double the root surface area, basically double the strength, of the weaker teeth they're supporting. That simple 2x ratio makes sure the whole system is stable and the anchors don't get overloaded.
All right, so theory is one thing, but what does this actually look like for a real person? Let's take a look at a case study and see the kind of impact this can have. Okay, so on the left, you're seeing the before X-ray, and just look at that severe bone loss. In a few spots, these teeth are practically hanging on by a thread. They are seriously compromised. Now, look at the image on the right. This is the exact same patient 10 years down the road. Because of those fixed splints, those very same teeth are still there, still stable, still functional. I mean, that is just a dramatic, incredible result.
So as you can see, splinting can be an absolute game changer. But, and this is a really big but, it's not a passive treatment. It's a powerful tool, for sure, but it comes with some real responsibilities for the patient.
Yeah, here's the catch. A splint, just by its design, creates all these new nooks and crannies where plaque can hide.
It just makes cleaning harder, which means you have to be absolutely meticulous about your oral hygiene. If you're not, you could end up with more cavities or other problems. This is definitely not a fire and forget solution.
And this quote just sums it all up perfectly. A splint is an aid. It's a support system. It stabilizes the situation, but it doesn't cure the underlying disease that caused the teeth to get loose in the first place. That requires continuous, dedicated care.
Which leaves us with this final big question to think about. Is a splint meant to be the permanent fix, the thing that holds the line for years and years, or is it more of a bridge, something that stabilizes a really tough situation until a more long-term, definitive solution can be put in place? The answer, as it so often is in medicine, really depends on each person's unique situation.
Hey there, and welcome. Ever had that sinking feeling or wondered what happens when teeth start to feel, well, a little loose? It's a real issue, whether it comes from an injury or disease. But don't worry, because dentists have this really fascinating solution called a periodontal splint. Today, we're going to break down exactly what they are and how these clever little devices work to save a smile.
So let's just jump right in with the big question. What actually happens when a tooth, or maybe a few teeth, lose their solid footing in your jaw? This is way more than just a little inconvenience, right? It can seriously mess with your ability to just live your life. And yeah, this picture really gives you a clear idea of what we're talking about. These teeth have lost a ton of bone support, and that's exactly why they get mobile. It's not just about how it looks. I mean, it can make chewing a real pain, it can affect how you talk, and it's just plain uncomfortable. So the goal is pretty obvious. We've got to find a way to get that stability back. And that's where the periodontal splint comes in. The idea behind it is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. You join the loose teeth together to create one solid, stable unit. See, by spreading the chewing forces across a bunch of teeth instead of just one, the splint makes things work better and, crucially, gives those tissues underneath a real chance to heal.
Okay, here's the game plan for today. We'll kick things off with why we splint in the first place. Then we'll dive into the different kinds based on how long they're used, where they're put, and what they're made of. We'll finish up by looking at what makes a splint really work and leave you with the most important takeaway of all.
So, what's the endgame here? It's simple. When things like periodontal disease or an injury weaken the support system for our teeth, they start to move around. Splinting is all about stopping that movement in its tracks. By linking teeth together, we can shift the biting pressure over to stronger teeth, which protects the weaker ones and just lets you get back to chewing comfortably. It's really all about building one stable unit where things have gotten shaky. All right, let's get into the different categories of splints. And honestly, one of the best ways to classify them is by asking a simple question. How long is this thing supposed to be in your mouth? Are we talking about a quick fix, or is this a for the rest of your life kind of solution? This chart lays it all out perfectly. First, you have your temporary splint. Think less than 6 months. This is for stabilizing teeth right after an injury or maybe during the first phase of treatment. Then you have provisional splints, and these are super interesting. They're kind of like a test drive. A dentist might put one in for a few months or even a couple of years just to see how everything responds before they go all in on a big, permanent restoration. And finally, permanent splints are just what they sound like. They're indefinite solutions that go in only after everything is healthy and stable. Okay, our next big category is all about location, location, location. Are we sticking this thing on the outside of the teeth, or are we actually building it into the tooth itself? And trust me, this decision changes everything, from how it looks, to how strong it is, to how much drilling is needed. First up, we've got extracoronal splints. The key word to remember here is extra, as in outside. These splints are bonded right onto the outer surface of the teeth. And the great thing about that is it often means less or sometimes even zero tooth prep is required. And these two pictures show the difference perfectly. Over on the left, you see a splint made from tooth-colored composite resin that's bonded on the outside. It's pretty slick, less invasive, and it blends right in. Then, on the right, you have a much beefier cast metal splint, also on the outside. Both are extracoronal, but you can see they offer totally different levels of support. Now, the other option is an intracoronal splint. So if extra means outside, you can probably guess that intra means, yep, inside. For these, the dentist makes little channels or grooves in the teeth, and the splint material gets placed right inside them. This can make the splint practically invisible and creates a super strong unified block of teeth. So what does that actually look like? Well, a common way is to embed a reinforcing wire, or maybe a tough nylon line, inside some composite resin that fills up those little grooves. Another really durable method uses custom-made metal inlays. They're soldered together and then cemented into the teeth, creating this incredibly solid interlocking structure. And that brings us to the materials themselves. This is where things get really cool because the technology has come a long, long way. We've gone from simple wires to some seriously advanced composites and fibers. And that gives dentists a whole toolbox of options to choose from to fit exactly what a patient needs. Check this out. This is a perfect example of modern materials. It's a fiber-reinforced composite splint. It uses these super strong fibers, think polyethylene or woven glass, that are all packed into a ribbon, which then gets bonded to the teeth. You get incredible strength, and it holds up really well. Plus, it's biocompatible and looks great. But get this, splints don't always have to be permanently glued in. A removable appliance like this acrylic night guard can totally work as an extracornal splint. It's often used as a temporary thing, and it does double duty. It provides stability, and it protects your teeth from any grinding you might be doing at night. And then, for the cases that need the absolute maximum long-term stability, you bring out the heavy hitters. We're talking cast metal frameworks or multi-unit bridges. These are pretty much reserved for permanent splints. And yeah, they might be a little more invasive and not quite as aesthetic, but when it comes to pure brute force rigidity, nothing beats them for supporting really compromised teeth for the long haul. Okay, so we have all these options, right? Different timings, different locations, different materials. But at the end of the day, what actually makes a splint good? What separates a successful one from one that just doesn't work out? Well, there's a checklist of things every dentist is trying to hit. You know, the perfect splint is really a balancing act. It has to be stable enough to do its job, for sure. But, and this is the non-negotiable part, it absolutely cannot get in the way of you keeping your teeth clean. That's paramount. It shouldn't irritate your gums, it should look as natural as possible, and of course, it needs to be tough and not break the bank. Hitting all of those targets is the real key to success. So let's pull all this together. After looking at how long a splint is for, where it goes, and what it's made of, what's the one single idea you should really take away from all this? And this classic quote from way back in 1977 just says it all. Everything we've talked about, from temporary wires to permanent bridges, from inside the tooth to outside, it all comes back to this one single idea. The main point of a splint is to control that tooth mobility. It's all about creating a solid foundation so you can eat, speak, and smile with confidence again. Thanks for watching.
So when it comes to dealing with loose teeth, there's this huge question that dentists and patients have to tackle. Should we splint them together? Bind them up for support. It seems like such an obvious fix, but is it really the right move every time? Let's get into it and unpack this whole dilemma. To splint or not to splint?
First off, let's just talk about the problem. Loose teeth, or what your dentist would call tooth mobility, it's not just some small annoyance. It really fundamentally changes how you go about your day. It can make something as simple as chewing your food uncomfortable, maybe even painful. It creates this constant, low-level anxiety about what you can or can't eat.
And yeah, this really gets to the heart of it. We're talking about how confident you feel when you smile, how comfortable you are at a meal with friends. It's a huge deal. And for a dentist, when teeth are mobile, that's a big red flag that the foundation, the very thing holding them in place, is in trouble.
Okay, so what exactly is this procedure that we're talking about? What is this thing that promises to fix such a big problem? Let's get a really clear idea of what periodontal splinting actually is.
So, there's the textbook definition for you. But, to put it simply, a splint is basically a device that links up your wobbly teeth with their stronger, more stable neighbors. By joining them all together, you're essentially creating one solid unit that can handle the stress of chewing way better.
Now, this is probably the best way to think about it. It's exactly like when you buddy tape an injured finger to a healthy one for support. A periodontal splint does the same thing, but for your teeth. The weaker tooth isn't fighting the battle alone anymore. It's getting backup from the whole squad.
All right, now that we get the basic idea, let's talk about the good stuff. Why would a dentist even suggest us? What's the promise here that makes splinting such a go-to treatment for so many?
Well, the benefits are pretty huge. I mean, first and foremost, you get your comfort and function back, which is what most people really care about. It works by spreading out the chewing forces, so no single weak tooth is taking all the heat.
This can actually help those teeth last longer, stabilize them after an accident, and even create the stable foundation needed for other, more complicated dental work to succeed.
And, this hits on something that goes beyond the purely mechanical. There's this massive psychological boost. Just imagine getting rid of that constant worry and discomfort of having loose teeth. That can do wonders for a person's sense of well-being and just feeling confident in their own smile.
And from a clinical standpoint, this is a game changer. Think about it. If a surgeon is trying to, say, regrow lost bone or gum tissue, the last thing they want is for that area to be moving around. A splint locks everything down, which can make those super delicate procedures much more likely to work out well.
But, and you knew there was a but coming, splinting is not some magic bullet. It comes with its own set of pretty serious risks. The very thing that makes it great, its rigidity, can also become its biggest problem. It is absolutely a double-edged sword. This right here lays out the whole conflict perfectly. You get the promise of stability, but it comes with the risk, the peril, of creating totally new and sometimes even worse problems. For a splint to work, everything has to be just right. The planning, the procedure, and especially the follow-up care. Okay, so risk number one, and this is the big one that affects everyone, hygiene. A splint, just by its design, creates all these little nooks and crannies that are perfect hiding spots for plaque. It makes brushing and flossing so much harder, and if you're not incredibly careful, that splint can actually cause more decay and gum disease, damaging the very teeth it's supposed to be helping.
Now this one is kind of fascinating from a physics perspective. Think of that rigid splint like a lever or a seesaw. If your bite is just a tiny bit off on one single tooth in that splinted group, the force isn't just felt by that one tooth. Oh no. It gets transferred across the entire unit, which can overload and hurt the healthy teeth holding everything together. A tiny issue gets magnified into a huge problem.
And then you have the biological risks. See, your teeth aren't meant to be set in concrete. They're supposed to have a tiny bit of flex, thanks to a natural ligament that acts like a shock absorber. Well, long-term, rigid splinting can stop that healthy micro-movement, and in some cases, that can cause the tooth's root to literally fuse to the jawbone. That's called ankylosis, and trust me, it can lead to major complications down the road. And maybe the most important reality check of all is this. Splinting doesn't actually cure what caused the teeth to get loose in the first place. It's more of a management tool. In fact, research shows that if you take the splint off later on, the teeth often go right back to being as wobbly as they were before. It's a brace for the symptom, not a cure for the disease.
So after all that, the good, the bad, the ugly, where does that leave us? Well, the general consensus seems to land on a pretty clear conclusion. You have to think of splinting as a powerful tool, but a tool that's meant for very specific jobs. It's an aid, not a cure.
This quote right here really just says it all, doesn't it? You can't just slap a splint on some loose teeth and call it a day. That's not how it works. Splinting is something you do in addition to treating the actual root cause of the problem, whether it's gum disease or a bad bite.
So, for a splint to have any chance of success, there are some non-negotiable rules. First, you have to get the underlying gum disease under control. Second, you need enough strong, healthy teeth to act as anchors. Third, and this is so important, the bite has to be perfectly adjusted before the splint goes on to avoid that dangerous lever effect we talked about. And finally, none of it matters if the patient isn't 100% committed to keeping it clean. If you skip any of these steps, that splint could easily do more harm than good.
Which brings us right back to where we started, but now with a whole lot more perspective. A splint is basically a very fancy, long-term support system. And the decision to use one means you have to carefully figure out if that support is genuinely going to make things better or just trade one set of problems for another. It's one of those classic situations in medicine where the only right answer is, well, it depends.